Fabian Gozin. Did I say that right?
You did. Go sin. Like, go sin not. Like bad advice.
Then you reached out and you said you had a pretty interesting story, and I read your emails, and you said you were hanging out with some pretty big names back in the day, and then you did your own thing, and then you kind of joined the military. There's a lot of things that happened in your life so far, so I was interested in seeing if we could kind of like go through some of the biggest stepping stones, I guess you could say, in your career and your life, and then kind of go from there. You also mentioned some, and I read some of the articles you sent over. There's some pretty serious stuff in there that which we will also talk about, of course. But let's start from the beginning, Fabian. Let's start talking about how you got started in skateboarding and what did that look like at its peak.
I gotcha. So I was homeschooled and I became sponsored by a local skate shop, Jay's Sport Shop. And Birdhouse video came out. Heath Kirchart lip slid El Toro, and I went and I board slid El Toro, and I brought it back to the shop. I was trying to. I think I was trying to get sponsored by the shop. Either way, some rep was there, and he told me that I should take my video to ASR down in San Diego. So my friend put together a bunch of clips, took it down to ASR, dropped it off at all the booths, and then Monday morning I started getting a bunch of phone calls from the first one was S, and then Real, and then yeah, it started like 7 in the morning. It was pretty interesting. And I didn't see it coming because I didn't know that my friend was dropping off the videos. I didn't actually know he did it. And he wanted to become a cinematographer. He wanted to become a skate filmer. So he had edited my footage and just dropped it off at a bunch of booths. And so the next weekend, him and I were driving up to San Francisco to meet with Mickey Reyes, the team manager of Real. And we stayed at his house, met up with Jake Phelps, went to 16 there.
You're just dropping all these names like if it's like nothing out of the ordinary, just basically all the heavy names back in the day.
Yeah, this was just to summarize it from, from start until my peak. My first photo would be at that rail where it was a Hall of Meat. It was the 16. They did the Buster Bale. Uh, Sheckler killed it. That 16 rail. Phelps wanted me to backsmith it, and because no one had done that, and I wasn't. I don't think I backsmithed anything. Maybe like some skate park rail, but that's how things went back in the day. You just kind of did a trick, and the first time you did it was on something big or crazy, or it was fun like that. So I locked into feeble while I was trying to backside grind, and I slammed and broke my hand. And so my first photo is a Hall of Meat in Thrasher, and then Phelps took off, and I saw him a few times again in my career after that. And then that trip with Mickey Reyes, he kind of handed me off to a few other team managers to see what would fit well with me. And then one day I got a phone call from Jamie Thomas, and he had seen that I got a trick, uh, an opener in 4-1, kickflip frontside feeble, and and so he called me while I was skating, and he said, "Hey, this is Jamie Thomas. I saw your trick," and it was before it had come out. It was like right after I did the trick, so I thought it was a prank call, and I didn't call him back. But he called me a month later, and he asked why I didn't call him back, and I thought it was a prank call. And the next weekend, I found myself on a train with my friends. This time being like Garrett Hill and some other people, um, Alex Lewandowski and Mark Gutterman, rest in peace. We all started to join the Zero crew at about the same time, and and I started to get flow for Zero.
What
And
year
then
was this? Sorry, Fabian. What year was this?
where I'm at right now is about 2002, 2001 maybe. Right before Dying to Live, I was slated to potentially get a part in Dying to Live. So whatever was right before that video, right before Dying to Live.
Was this before the Chris Cole era or after? Those years are blurry to me.
It was like the beginning of the Chris Cole era, 2000, probably 2001.
That's, I mean, life is moving kind of fast. You making it seem like it's moving really fast, which I think it is. A call from Jamie.
Still really young, right? Like, so I was homeschooled, and when I board slid El Toro, I was like 16.
God damn.
And when I got sponsored, I was like 17, 18, going up to San Francisco, skating with the deluxe guys, and then 18, getting in the magazines, skating with 411 and Black Box distribution, like Zero and
Yeah.
Fallen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Honestly, dude, like, are you able to sleep at night? Like, do you go grinning from smile, like ear to ear, just thinking about all the stuff that's happening to you at this age? Like, you're hardly an adult yet.
That was the problem. So let's take it back to Mickey Reyes, the team manager of Real. So he was the first to snag me out of the ASR and bring me somewhere. And I was in the van with a crew of dudes. I don't remember who, but I was sitting next to him as he was driving, and he was talking about what I thought about my future in skateboarding. And I was so young. I was like 17. And I don't even think my mom knew that I was up in San Francisco. I just thought I was out skating. In fact, I know she didn't know I was in San Francisco. And so I told him that I didn't know, I didn't plan on skateboarding as a career. That was never my plan. And so I hadn't given it any thought. And that kind of ended the conversation. And that was all he needed to hear to realize I potentially wasn't somebody that was thinking about my future, like somebody who he wanted to ride for real. But I did get in the reel to reel video. I have some tricks in the credit section. He threw some tricks that we filmed in the credits of reel to reel. So that started my career in the videos.
You mentioned something in your email that, and maybe this is going to be a little bit of skipping here and there, but you mentioned something that you were like roomies with some names that perhaps everybody watching knows. What's that about?
I was, yeah. Jeremy, what up? Jeremy Rogers. I was roommates with him for quite a while. We met and built in Arizona. We met in Australia on a Billabong tour in 2004, and he invited me back. I was living in Australia at the time for like the last 16 months, and we were on this 2-month long tour. So Jeremy met me on this tour, and he's like, dude, why are you in Australia? Come back and live in Santa Monica with me. And I took him up on it, and so I moved in with Jeremy in Santa Monica, right next to Paul Rodriguez, and so I started, hanging out with that crowd, the top tier skater. Jeremy that year got Rookie of the Year. That was the year he got Rookie of the Year, like 2002, 2003, maybe. So Jeremy plucked me out of Australia and put me into the center of the valley, as they referred to at that time. And I started skating with all the heads of industry and getting photos with those guys. And I got a lot of, stories just branch off from there. Just depends where you want to go.
I mean, I definitely want to hear a couple, but how old are you at this point? When you're living with Jeremy and you're kind of like rubbing shoulders with like some pretty big names.
I am currently 41, and so at the time I was 22. 23. Yeah, I was still skating contests. I skated Tampa Am for a few years. I'd still go on tours. I was sponsored by Billabong and Bones and Flow for Powell. And Powell still kicks me down skateboards. Thank you, DeVille. Yeah. And so I was just skating all the time. I was skating with people in this industry who were making videos and taking photos all the time, and so they need to get paid, and I'm doing the tricks that get them paid that they can publish, that Thrasher would buy and videos would pay for the clips. So the photographers and filmers had to get paid. They had to sell the photos of me and sell the footage. The most I made, one photographer, his name's Andrew Mapstone. He submitted a photo of me to a photo art contest in Australia and won $10,000, got first place. And they printed the photo 6 feet round, 6 feet. It was huge, life size, and made 300 of them and put them in art galleries around Australia.
Wow.
For Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah.
So I was born within the industry in Orange County, and I just kept skating, and I wasn't really bad at it. So I kept
Yeah.
going with where it took me with no real ambition. I was curious. I was personally curious myself where this was going most of the time. I didn't know why I was looking at a beautiful sunset in some nice, fancy 5-star resort getting paid to skateboard. Like, I didn't understand at 21 years old why I was living a life of a rock star. There was no way to comprehend it. I didn't go to public school. I had no context. I was just faking doing homework until my mom would let me sneak out and go skate, and then I'd meet up with my friends to go skate, and then I ended up better than everybody in my area. And my area was Orange County, so I just went from there around the world and kept skating.
Yeah. Humbly put, you said, I wasn't exactly bad at it. So yeah, I'd say you weren't bad at it if that's happening to you. That's amazing, man. I'm so happy to hear that. Hey, some people are just blessed with talent, I guess. Just like, bam, you got it. Speaking of, now that you brought up the dollar sign, area of skateboarding, if you're comfortable enough, uh, talk or walk me through like what does revenue, what does monetary incentives look like for a person like you at that time? Where were you getting income from?
Easy, yeah. Photo incentives from any time a photo would get published, whether it be a cover, contents, anywhere within the magazine. You'd get photo incentives from any number of sponsors that you have visible in the ad.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where I'd make money during like print, getting print ads. And then video parts, sometimes sponsors would pay around $250 to $1,000 per video part you put out. Um, and then there was contracts with travel per diem, travel budgets. So they would pay me a certain amount a year. I think Billabong was paying me $500 cash a month, and a travel budget of like 1,500 a month. And it was a 2-year contract, was one of my contracts with them.
Nice.
So I would get cash in pocket. I would get a chance to travel, and then I would get paid from photo incentives in magazines. And then when video parts would come out, sponsors would often, like Bones and whoever I was flow for, whatever shoe company, sunglasses, watch, I don't know. It was the Wild West back in the early 2000s. Uh, they would toss down money, just like at contests now. They're handing out $50, $100 bills for people that do tricks at
Damn.
contests. Then companies would throw out money to people who were getting tricks in magazines and videos. So that was another way. There wasn't a lot of money, but there was enough. Also, another funny thing was you could sit in the parking lot of a skate park and sell boards and wheels, or trade them for weed, whatever you want to do, out of your trunk, and get almost what the skate shop gets, just $10 less. And so I had basically a clientele of people that would buy. I'd get 8 to 10 boards a month and 4 to 6 pairs of shoes, just a wild amount because the companies could afford to send product, but they couldn't afford health insurance. So they would send, so they know I'd only go through like 3 to 5 boards. So they would expect me to sell the other 3 to 5,
Oh,
and I would have gas money. I would be able to whatever. So every skater knows that they can, like I get a pallet of Monster and I drive down to the skate park and somebody gives me like 20 bucks for the pallet of Monster and I get 16 pallets of Monster a month.
that hustler mentality, man. Golly, that's
I
probably like
guess
your first entrepreneurship like taste.
the first one was recycling. My mom, I think she caught me stealing out of her wallet, so she made me go. I was like 12 years old, and so she
Oh
made me
yeah.
go do some sort of work and go collect recycled cans and bottles out of people's garbage on trash trash day so that I can learn what it was like to work for money. So that was my first hustle because I would put full cans of soda in the bags when I'd go recycle them and try to get like more weight. But then those cans would roll down the machine and I'd get caught.
Get just out of curiosity, man, because this gentleman has been in the news a couple times here and there with for goofy stuff, and I want to ask you, as a person that probably lived with him, tell
So
me
Jeremy,
yeah, give me a random Jeremy Rogers story, just a random thing that like what the heck, like something crazy or something just funny.
on the sole of one of his shoes, um, I told him to put Fear God on one of his pro model shoes, and so he put Fear God on the sole of his pro model shoe. And then a little while later, I told him he had a dollar sign tattoo, and I told him to put "In God We Trust" around it, and he put "In God We Trust." And so I think the first funny Jeremy story is the fact that he actually listened to me from time to time, because I don't think he's ever listened to anybody in his life. But living with him wise, it depends. Does he have to have clothes on? Is this like a G-rated story?
It doesn't matter, dude. You're the one that lived with him, not me, dude. So whatever you feel comfortable
All
sharing,
right.
I'll take it.
So here, Jeremy, I'm sorry, but here's my craziest Jeremy Rogers story. And this actually is why I stopped skateboarding.
Oh, okay.
We're driving down the road at after a party or some club at like 4 in the morning, and he tells me to look under the seat, and so I pull out under the seat a gun, and we're driving in the neighborhood, and we're in his fancy Mercedes, and I open up the box, and there's a gun. I'm like, dude, can I shoot it? And we're listening to rap, and it's all loud, and he's like, yeah. And he rolls down the sun visor and opens all big, the whole top of the roof, and so I'm looking at this gun, and I'm like, and I shot it twice.
Oh my
And he's
god.
like, "Oh, great try," and he grabs it from me, and he takes off and shoots it a couple times, and we're in a residential area, and so then
Wow.
he just takes off. He just starts flying in his Mercedes at 4 in the morning, and we're toasted. And so we're listening to music really loud, laughing hysterically now that we just popped off some rounds in a neighborhood, just kind of like looking at each other. And then all of a sudden I look up and there's a wall straight in front of us. And I look at Jeremy and I say, Jeremy, wall. And he looks up and he slams on the brakes and cranks the wheel, and the car bounces up over the curb and slams into a cinder block wall on my side. And then all the airbags in his car go off. We're probably going, I don't know, let's say something reasonable, like 50 or 60 miles an hour by the time we started to turn. Because when we shot the guns off, he just took off. And those, anyway, so I find myself waking up, and then Jeremy's in my lap, and I wake him up, and his car is still on, so he drives it with all 4 wheels sideways
Oh my god, dude.
on the rims into a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and we get a ride home from a crackhead. And then I go to bed, and it's like 7 in the morning, and then my phone rings, and it's like 7:30 in the morning. But I'm thinking it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like normal. I was just a normal night, and we're gonna go skate today. But no, it was my mom calling, and it was like just a few minutes after I'd fallen asleep. And my mom asked me on the phone, and I never answer her calls. Just you don't answer your mom's calls, never do. And so I said hello, and she says, "Hey Fabe, it's your mom." Like, "Hey mom." She says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, and as I looked around, everything was just slow motion. It felt like my life just kind of flashed before my eyes, and I was looking at girls and drugs and skateboards on the wall and gold chains and bags of drugs, just like wild and crazy things. And so I told my mom, I'm like, "Mom, I don't know what I'm doing." And she says, "Okay, come home." And so I drive 3 hours home, and I see my mom, and she's like, "Hey, I want you to go to a rehab and turn your life around." And so I, for some reason, drove back to Jeremy's place, and I woke him up. Now it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, "Hey, Jeremy, I gotta go to rehab. I need $800. I gotta go to rehab." And and I think the first thing he said is, can we go get bagels and Jamba Juice first? Something like that. He wanted breakfast first. So at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or right before the bank closed, Jeremy gave me $800 to pay for rehab, which I wasn't actually addicted to any drugs or on any drugs constantly. I was just having a lifestyle of partying. I needed a lifestyle change. And so Jeremy paid for me to go into a rehab called U-Turn for Christ at 23 years old. Uh, the day after we got in a car wreck. So that's probably my craziest journey story.
That's a pretty crazy story, man. I mean, I wasn't when you said that you got woken up when by that phone call. I thought it was like the cops or something. Like, was there ever any like charges, any follow up with authorities about that?
No, the best part was Jeremy had a brand new car in his garage by 12 o'clock that afternoon. He had a brand
Holy
new Dodge
moly,
Charger
dude!
because he was sponsored by a auto body shop. So they collected his car. He
Oh,
was like the first phone call was to them because it was their car that he was driving. And so they picked it up at Dunkin' Donuts and then delivered him another car at his house. And he woke up, and we took a Dodge Charger, a brand new car, to Jamba Juice and get bagels into the bank.
that
That's how Jeremy
is
worked.
that is rolling deep, man. Holy, that's crazy. It's like, hey, if I had it like that, why would I change? You know what I'm saying? Not speaking bad about anyone. I'm just saying in general. Like if I had it like that, I wouldn't be too worried about wrecking cars. You know, in a few hours it'll be like it never happened. Driving to Los Santos, body shop here.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's too easy. It's almost encouraged.
but thank you for sharing. That's a crazy story. Thank you for sharing. He's a crazy dude, man. I've seen him in some of his most recent interviews. He's got the same energy. Maybe he's made some changes in his life, but he's living his best life. As far as I can tell. So good for him, I guess.
When we crashed the car, I went to rehab for a lifestyle change. I committed myself to U-Turn for Christ for 2 months. And then after 2 months, I knew that I still had nothing to do in life because the reality was my parents had, intervened in my life, and I was running out of insurance because I was able to skateboard and cover my medical expenses, the injuries, on my dad's company's insurance. And that ended when I was turning 24. So they were trying to desperately get me to do something. Like, first injury, I was out, or it ended when I was 23. I was required to go to junior college, so I went to Saddleback College to maintain the insurance while I was skateboarding. I had to go to community college, and basically fail through every class, but they let me. And I stayed on his insurance. And so it turns out that's why they were so desperate to make me stop skating and choose a different direction in life. And 2 months of a clear mind wasn't enough. So I committed myself to another 6 more months, which totaled 8 months in this rehab. And after, by about the 8 month mark, I had convinced myself that I was going to join the Air Force and become a chaplain. And so when I went off to rehab after the accident, I broke all my contracts with all of my sponsors. I didn't email anyone back. I changed my phone number. I moved in with my mom after that. I just ghosted everyone in the industry. I disappeared.
Oh, interesting. Just cold turkey on everyone. Did he? Is it because you arrived to the conclusion that it was kind of like the circle you had built around you, the environment that you needed to kind of detach from?
I knew that I could not stay sober and live a fulfilled life as a Christian, a believer in Christ, as somebody that my future just wasn't skateboarding. And I knew that when I was at the parks, at the private skate parks in the valley in the middle of the night, skating with Paul and Tori and Jeremy, and watching them do 100 kickflip nose manuals and 100 switch flip nose manuals and 25 switch flip backside tail slides and 80 crook nollie flips, and they just all night, every night, and then they'd go take it to a street obstacle. That wasn't my style of skateboarding. That was so routine, and they were getting agents, and they were in big motion picture productions, and they were taking skateboarding to a level that I was exposed to and I was primed to go into, but I saw firsthand it wasn't for me. It wasn't a place. I didn't fit in. I wasn't that type of skater. I like to get one trick once and then I'm done and I move on. I don't want to do the street league style. The I didn't want to do what they were having to do every day, all day. I just didn't want to do it. I want to do something else.
That Fabian, that statement is so powerful because that's like I could hear so many people in my mind. I remember throughout life, not just about skateboarding, just about anything else. It's so easy to say, I don't want to do that. That's not me. It's so easy to say that whenever you lack the skill set because it's a very comfortable, it's an easy way out. But in your case, it's been proven by companies that you did not lack the skill. That was truly and purely you just didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's easy for somebody to say I don't want that, but they couldn't even do it even if they wanted to. You know what I mean? In this case, like it's not what's happening with you. You legitimately that's not the path in life you want to take.
That's absolutely right. And I guess I knew that at 16 years old with Mickey Reyes, up in San Francisco. And here I am at 23, just knowing my future is not going to be it's not going to be standing on a playing on a 32-inch piece of wood. I might have something to do with it in my life because I've never stopped. God has never actually given me a season of life where I wasn't able to skateboard. So I've brought skateboarding through every single season of my life. And I've had skateboarding exposure kind of like this in every season of my life. Like in Japan when I was in the military, they started publishing photos of me in Transworld Japan because on my off days I would go skate with the Japanese skaters and filmers and photographers. So I went from a B-list celebrity skateboarder, Southern California, to disappear, join the military, end up on a tropical island off the coast of Japan, Okinawa, and then all of a sudden all these skateboarders see me and I'm automatically in with everybody on the island who skates. So I was getting photos published in Transworld Japan, and then one day I got called into my commander's office, and he had a Transworld magazine
Oh
on his
my
desk.
God.
You can't have two jobs. So his concern was I was getting paid still, and I said no, I wasn't getting paid, and so they didn't make me stop skateboarding until they had to pay for reconstructive ankle surgery.
Jesus, dude. It's like it's hard to hide talent, baby. If I got talent, they're gonna find me. That's so dope, man. I'm not even gonna lie. That's so cool. Like they can put you on an island and the other side of the planet, and they'll still find you. That's insane, bro. Skateboarding is weird like that. That's crazy.
Doesn't matter where you go. It's one embrace.
It's a tiny community, dude. It's a tiny, tiny community. They will find you. Oh, that's insane. And here in the timeline, just for the sake of time, right? Because we could talk. I have a feeling you and I can talk for hours. Here in the timeline, then it says that you joined the Air Force, and then you're in Japan for 9 years, but then you had to move for a family emergency. And this is more on the link you sent me. I did go through it, but just for the audience that they don't know exactly what we're talking about, can you give me like a rundown of the events that follow?
Sure. I was pregnant with my first child at 32 years old. My wife of 5 years, my current ex-wife, and our child was born brain damaged. So she was brain damaged for 13 months, and that's what brought me from Japan to Hawaii. Is we had to let her go in Hawaii because we couldn't unplug any of the medical equipment in Japan. So we got a medevac or some type of flight back to Hawaii, which is where my ex-wife lives. I met her in Okinawa. She was a missionary teacher. We met in Okinawa. I left the military. She stayed a missionary teacher. I created my own business, a guest house and tour guide business through Airbnb, and then the tour guide branched off that. And then I also did some additional things for the government that we could talk about later in order to stay on Japan. And so that's how I was able to do it. Is uh, yeah, it's actually I was able to do things that a lot of expats, a lot of Americans weren't able to do because of my ties to the government while I was on Japan. But that ended when my daughter had to be put to rest, and we wanted that to happen in Hawaii because my wife's family is there, and that's how that happened.
Yeah, and I do want to say thank you for sharing such such a personal, intimate events and parts of your life. You sent me that article. And I had no idea. You had told me in the initial email you and I exchanged, to look you up, and I did. So I saw, the usual. I saw your video clips. I saw the Nine Club talking about you, but none of this other stuff popped up. Of course, that's a little too specific. But then I did look it up, and yeah, it was shared in several news stations actually, and obviously you had the local news covered it. And for those that didn't catch what you said just a few moments ago too well, so your daughter, apparently the laws in Japan are in a way that prevents a person, maybe it's specific to a baby, to an infant, but it prevents somebody that has a critical health condition that depends 100% on I guess artificial, I guess life being sustained, to be unplugged. I guess that would be illegal in Japan. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's completely accurate. That's why we had to come back to Hawaii, and we wanted it to end. There was no life in her that was going to be eventually lived. So it was just a matter of time. And I guess it took us that much time to. But that was also the trauma of my life. That event changed my life. I'm still recovering from the horrors of all that kind of stuff.
And I can't blame you. Heck, I'm literally a stranger to that situation, and I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I kind of got teary eyed just reading the article, just like reading through it. That's pretty intense stuff for any human to have to go through. But obviously, that happened. And one thing that really stood out to me, and I think it resonated so much because of the words you chose. You said you had to commit to your daughter 100%. Throughout that circumstance. And when you use the words commit, like, as skateboarders, doesn't matter if you're like pro level or not, like, the word commit is embedded in every waking moment, of landing anything. You have to commit. You just have to. It's not an option. And when you said, like, I had to commit, and then you said to my daughter, like, dude, that like hit me hard, dude. Like, even as a stranger, I was like, wow, dude, like, the choice of words is just like too deep right there, dude. I had to like take a step back. Yeah, man. So I can only imagine what you guys went through when that was actually happening.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I did choose those words specifically. That is in my skate vocabulary, and it, yeah, you picked up what I was putting down perfectly. Good job.
Yeah, dude. It's hard to miss in my opinion, but I know it's almost been, not quite, but it's almost been 10 years, right? That was like 2017, 2016, around that time.
Yeah, she passed in 2017.
10, yeah. So next year will be shy of a year, like 9 years basically around the corner since then, and like you said, still recovering and totally understandable. Um, what's something? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but in case you do have some, a quick answer, like, what's like a life lesson that taught you? Like, that's not something that anybody wants to go through, but I mean, you went through it. Is there something that you like learned that you just, as a human being, that you learned from that experience that you're just taking with you, carrying with you everywhere you go?
Yeah, the blunt answer is Jesus Christ is present in it, before it, and after it. So his presence within it is very unique, and the life lesson would be uh, pay attention while you're going through it, because if you survive it, you'll. I've ended up with something that's so special that I appreciate so much, and that I know is so unique to me, that I'm glad I didn't miss it. I'm glad I absorbed the whole pain.
Yeah, and right, correct me if I'm wrong. I wasn't there. I just got this from an article, but I suspect that you having to leave Japan to address this, is that kind of because in the email you said you ended up homeless for some time as well. Is there a correlation from this series of events to that outcome? Is it like, did you invest all your money into this? Like, how did that kind of happen?
Uh,
You quit your job, right? You said that you left your job. That's what the article said.
this is gonna be like a Jeremy Rogers story for you, but 10 months after my first daughter passed away, we ended up pregnant again, and just 2 months after my daughter passed away, we were pregnant, and so 10 months later, we were birthing another child. So less than a year after the passing of our daughter, we were giving birth again to our second daughter. So the trauma that the death of my first daughter caused, and the change of vocation, the change of job and location from Japan to Maui, and the psychological sickness of the trauma, that's very hard to articulate when I'm in it, but you know, it's just darkness, it's chronic depression, it's anxiety beyond panic, it's a consistent fear of death that lingers, and it just never stops hovering around. So that was with me while I was in Hawaii, and while my next daughter was born. And so I was just assuming that my daughter was gonna die. I was just assuming the worst. When I say absorbing all the pain, then that's what I mean. Like there's a lot of pain and confusion that came along with the passing of my first daughter and then the birth of my second daughter. And that also happened to my ex-wife. And so unfortunately, my ex-wife took my daughter that was born on my birthday 10 months after my first daughter died. My second daughter was born on my birthday, July 10th. My ex-wife's, in her mindset, she took my daughter, our new daughter Nehemiah, and she disappeared. She just ran away, and she went to Oahu with her family and divorced me, and I actually haven't seen my daughter since then in 7 years.
Oh my God, I was not aware of that. I had
You
no
weren't
idea.
expecting that. You were not
Yeah,
expecting
no, not at
that.
all, not at all. And
The
obviously, these are,
crux of
like you said, the trauma, dude. It's hard to explain, right? Because like you guys went through this, like you don't know what the true side effects of having so much trauma in your brain, like what the outcome actually is, and something happened there, of course, right?
yes, so when we get traumatized, we run back to wherever we're comfortable. So my ex-wife was comfortable with her family back in Oahu. So she took my daughter and ran back to her family in Oahu, and I wasn't welcome there. And so they left me in Maui, and I had nowhere to stay and
Oh, I
no
see, I
money
see, I see.
and no ability. No, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any ability. They just left me homeless in Maui. And it's not like they left me homeless. I did it all to myself, but I wasn't in a mindset to have a 9 to 5 job or to be creative and create a product. And I wasn't able to have a stable life. She was able to run home and have what she thought was a stable life with her family that she was running from originally when she met me. And so the result of her trauma is that I haven't been able to see my daughter since she was 10 months old. So when my second daughter was 10 months old, they disappeared in the middle of the night. And I'm not going to go chase her. I'm not going to go stalk her. It was too, I just stayed on Maui and just began to rebuild my life as she divorced me. And I bought a moped. I found a job, and the job let me live in the restaurant while I was fixing it. And then I I was able to rent a room, and then I was able to have a social life and meet a woman, and then marry her and have another child, and build a business and bounce back in the in everything you see around me. But mentally, the bounce back takes a lot more of an effort.
And Fabian, maybe this is I know this is not super important for this particular video, but just given what you just explained to me that I wasn't expecting, uh, is it like in your ex-wife's mind, was it like your fault in a way that that tragedy happened? Are you responsible for that in her mindset?
No, her family, my in-laws are human traffickers, and she's a victim of sexual abuse, and they trafficked my child. It wasn't her fault. They used my ex-wife to get my daughter, and now they have my daughter. And I, I had to go homeless. I had to disappear. I had to sleep in different places every night because what my ex-wife ran back to, which is what she was running away from,
Oh, I got you.
was human trafficking, was grooming, was pedophilia. It was that lifestyle that nobody really likes to admit, the Epstein stuff. Nobody likes to really admit that that's real, but she ran back to it. And so the reason I haven't been able to see my daughter in 7 years is because she's still caught up in it, and they have an enormous amount of power to keep me from my daughter. They change. Yeah, yeah, I just can't go and have a relationship with her.
When you say
That's
they have power, are you talking about people in Japan? Is it people perhaps in this country? Like,
no, I'll give you an example. I When I found out my father-in-law was a pedophile, I went down to the police station. I printed out letters of his victims and I turned them into the police station in Pearl City. And 3 weeks later, I got a phone call, not from the police, but from my father-in-law. This was back in 2012, and said, "I hear you visited the police station. I want to let you know that there's nothing you can do." And then when my daughter was born, he told me that when my second daughter was born, he told me that she belonged to him, not to me, and that he was going to take her, and she wasn't mine, that I wasn't worthy of her, that it was her that, anyway, it was sick. It's a sick situation, but it was one trauma after another. So the trauma that I'm dealing with right now is more or less, I haven't had closure on my second relationship. I haven't been able to interact with my daughter. Now that I'm better from my daughter passing away and my ex-wife leaving me and taking my daughter and not letting me, now that my mind is not broken with that kind of feeling, my daughter, I want you to know she's still out there. She's still in Oahu. She still is 7 years old. She's going to be 8 years old. She will one day hopefully watch this. My goal in starting my YouTube channel this last year is because she became of age to where she can now access the internet. And so I want her to try to come and find me.
do you think she has a? Do you know what her name is, or do you think that's all concealed to you? Like, there's no way of telling.
I know what her birth certificate name is. I believe they've changed it. Yeah, she just doesn't show up, and they have handlers and stuff like that. So it's really weird.
If anything, I coincidentally recently, I don't know if you've seen this. There's a little bit of a movement right now of there's a little bit of people making noise about this, all these sexual allegations in skateboarding. Well, I know this is not a specifically a skateboarding thing, but you are a skateboarder that's well known amongst some pretty big names there. If you would bring this up, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know who Fabian is. Um, Robert Brink. I don't know if you know that name. He had it escapes me. He had a show. He had like a skateboarding affiliated entity show where he would do. I think it was like the Weekend Buzz. I think that's what it was. The Weekend Buzz. I don't know if you remember those shows.
Yeah, that's why Brink.
Yeah. So he's doing a thing where he's interviewing people that have these cases that were overlooked, quote unquote, overlooked by from a legal perspective, but that are real or that believed to be real in nature. He's been helping out Chris Cole's ex-wife, or he's helping her, and get some, because there's some allegations there. He's doing some stuff with I know you had a relationship with him, so I'm not speaking bad of him. I'm just saying the facts. So there's a Jamie Thomas, Dane Burnham accusations there. So he's working some stuff like that. So if you would like to, I would never do this without your permission, but if you would like to have this thing pick up some momentum and get that snowball effect rolling, I could potentially reach out to him because when I've messaged him, he replies. But maybe that's a whole nother conversation, perhaps behind the scenes, and then later we can make it public. But I think there's an opportunity there. He'd be interested, I'd say.
100%. That's the direction I'm trying to go. Exposure is because there's a time window before she disappears, either permanently or so. I'm looking for exposure right now.
Okay, we can talk offline about that. And I'll tell you
Yeah, all
what
right.
some first steps. But okay, Fabian, let me jump a little bit more. Look, everything you told me so far since the beginning of you being basically discovered in skateboarding is insane. Like, is this even real life, right? You're like a kid getting tons of exposure. You have massive talent. I mean, El Toro as a teenager is pretty crazy. So you got that going on. You have this other crazy stuff going on in your personal life, which is traumatic. And I can't imagine going through something and still. I mean, look at the wall behind you. Look around you. You have this business going. Like the average person, this shows that you're a skater. The average person wouldn't have any bit of energy left or mind, like space in their heads to start creating a product of any sort. Like the trauma's too much. But you still somehow pulled through. Only God knows why or how you did it. But talk to me about what you're doing right now with the B stuff. How does Fabian get on his feet and starts doing things again?
That's a great question. I happen to, every once in a while life throws you a golden egg. And so my golden egg was 14 barrels of raw Maui honey hidden in the jungles of Haiku. So I met a man who was a beekeeper, and as I'm recovering from my trauma and I'm building roofs and I'm hanging out with friends, I meet somebody and he's a beekeeper and he has 14 barrels of honey that he's willing to sell me for pennies on the dollar. And I buy them. I buy all of his honey and I ask my landlord if I can turn the downstairs into a honey distribution, honey lab, whatever you want to call it. Can I process honey downstairs? He said yes. Then I asked him if I could put 30 beehives on his property, and he said yes. And so I started to break into the honey market on Maui. And from the first year we broke in, I think we won our first award, second place in the Made on Maui Festival. And then we won first place in the Made on Maui Festival 3 times, the best in show.
What?
Yeah, we've even been taken to the House and the Senate as one of 3 products to represent Hawaii, to be sampled in
Wait,
front
wait.
of Congress and the Senate.
Well, I mean, look, this is gonna be a very ignorant question, and I'll wear that with honor. But how how does how do you make good honey? Aren't the bees doing the job, not you? How does that work? Oh, look at that! Woo! Oh, look at that presentation, though. But how does can you talk about that? How does one make like better honey than other people? Like do you like refine it? Do you add stuff to it? How does that work?
My wife is a food science major, and so she added supplements to the honey and created infusions that have certain flavor profiles and good for your body. Like the one I was just showing you is turmeric, which is Mother Nature's ibuprofen. Whenever I get road rash, I take a spoonful of turmeric and I start to feel better. And then we have honeys that clean your blood, that clean your skin. She just started to make a line of honeys, of infused honeys. And so we ended up creating, I'll show you, we created a whole bunch of them.
Holy moly, dude! That's
And so
yeah.
they have like colors. This
Oh, that
one's
is
blue.
crazy. Blue. That's the actual honey itself. It's blue.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So that's what we did differently with honey is we infused it with superfoods and created really cool colors and flavors and and then it took off.
That is extraordinary. Do you have to have some kind of light? Because I mean, these are foods. So do you have like a license, any kind of like inspection or auditing that comes into your facility?
Yeah, we had to get a health inspector. We had to dot the I's and cross the T's. You have
There
to
you go.
create LLC and then a DBA
Nice.
and then burn sheet. Create all the yeah. It turned into something that began to grow and having a business mindset, a creative business mindset. And in skateboarding, I had access to very brilliant people who created amazing businesses. So I was able to call them and ask, "Hey, how can my business succeed in this area?" And they helped me.
That's amazing. The skateboarding connections are still looking out for you after all that time.
It's true. It's true. Thanks to
Um,
Bill. Thanks, Neil.
there you go. If anyone watching would be interested in trying out some of your product, do you ship international? I mean, do you ship to other places, states?
Yeah, I ship everywhere. I'll ship to you if you're 300 feet underwater.
Now I know if I go look at the Titanic ruins the next time, I can give you a holler. Get hungry down there.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll do that.
do you have a website?
Yeah, it's nourishedmaui.com.
Nourishmaui.com. I'll put it here below so everyone can see that. I'm not even playing. I'm not even fronting here. My wife and I eat honey because my wife likes to make these morning like yogurt with granola and fruit bowls, and she likes to pour honey all over them, and they're super freaking good. So I'm like, instead of going to like Whole Foods next time or wherever it is that she gets the honey,
My website. Are you looking at the website yet?
I'm not. No, I don't want to mess with because I don't want to jump here and kind of mess me up my setup up. But
Yeah, well, I was gonna let you know that I'm gonna send you a box of honey. So you're gonna get to taste the flavor, taste the rainbow.
woo, appreciate it, appreciate it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. If man, I'm big on if there's some obviously small businesses that you got to support those, but I'm more into the mom and pop like direct from the owner type of business as opposed to the big corporation. God knows what they're putting on there. I've seen documentaries. Maybe you know all about this, of course, more than me, but I've seen documentaries recently about how there's like a what is it like counterfeit honey crisis that a bunch of people are faking the honey, dude. That it's just like a bunch of BS chemicals in there. It's not real honey. It's like adulterated honey.
About it, I know all about it. Yeah, it's really sad.
Is it a real thing?
It's a real thing. There's some problems. I would not recommend eating honey unless you bought it from the person who was the beekeeper.
Oh. Yeah, because apparently, like I think statistics show that all the bees are dying in the world, and like you see the bees dying, and then like the honey production is like growing. Like, where are these suppliers getting the honey from? It's impossible. There's like less
It's
bees per year.
I'll just so imagine if you keep thousands of beehives in a giant warehouse and you put white sugar in excuse me, white sugar in water and you put it on top of their beehive and that tastes like nectar to them. So they drink it and then they go in and they translate it into honey and then you harvest that honey. So all you're eating is white sugar honey. So
Oh
that's one thing
snap!
people do. And then another thing people do is just create synthetic honey.
Yes.
And so synthetic honey is a whole different combination of chemicals. So we have a very special honey here that I have access to that I'm harvesting. But if you are thinking of a way to help me personally,
Yeah.
because the honey business it's bursting at the seams. I am trying to generate attraction to my YouTube channel and my beekeeping. And I want to film myself go out beekeeping, and I want to make a YouTube channel as a beekeeper on Maui and saving bees. And you'll see when you check out my channel. So I would just like people to subscribe and like my YouTube channel so that I can run a honey business. I can rescue bees, and I could work at a restaurant so I can live on Maui and skateboard.
Is that the Be Nourished?
Be Nourished is the honey company. My beekeeping YouTube channel is Maui Bee Rescue.
Okay. I'll put it here. As soon as I find it, I'll put it here so people will get it instantly. As soon as you said it, it's popped up in front of the screen.
Thank you.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
Right here.
That's all I need. Anybody to do to support me and help me save the bees on Maui is get me to that subscriber and watch hour time so that I can really start going and doing. I mean, we need bees. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How much urbanization is taking away from our ability to breathe.
Hey Fabian, the once again, dude, the thing is about to close itself. We got 1 minute. We got one last minute. Any final words?
All right. Final words?
Yes.
Praise the Lord. Repent if you haven't yet.
Amen.
And keep skateboarding.
Fabian, you shared some pretty personal stuff with us today. I truly appreciate it. This is not going to be our only conversation. Keep on the lookout. I want to talk to you some more later down the road. Maybe have you as an official, unofficial skate informant consultant. You were in the industry, literally in it. So maybe we can talk about some subjects later down the road. But yeah. Thank you for reaching out. We'll talk soon again. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, guys.
See ya.